Hello everyone, and I want to talk about why this bull run will be one of the best ever. And it has everything to do with certainty and what happened today with the Ethereum ETF. Because the Ethereum ETF wasn't only the passage of an Ethereum ETF. Yes, that's going to get a lot of money to flow into Ethereum and the ERC20 coins. But the greater thing is that basically classified Ethereum as a non-security, because it's going to get filed under S1. And to get filed under S1, not more than 40% of a fund's assets can be a security. And since all the ETFs are basically 100% Ethereum, that means Ethereum cannot be a security for the SEC to accept it. This is probably why the SEC was so hesitant to accept an Ethereum ETF, because in doing so, they would essentially deem Ethereum a non-security. And a lot of lawyers have chimed in that if Ethereum is a non-security, then all these other coins, including Solana and such, that the SEC is suing, they're going to find it hard to prove its securities as well. So they may have just, by declaring the ETF valid, they may just lost their Coinbase lawsuit and the Binance lawsuit and all those other lawsuits. Now, Congress is coming up with a rule of what the SEC has control over and what the CFTC has control over. It seems like there's going to be a clause in there that if any one entity holds more than 20% of the coins, then the SEC will have jurisdiction. So for instance, if Ripple actually has 40% of all XRP in the escrow, then they might actually be a security. Remember, the courts on the Ripple case only ruled with the laws in place right now. If they pass that rule that if any one entity holds more than 20% of the coin, whether it's a company or an individual, then it will have to be declared a security. However, there's ways around that. Hester Pierce has proposed a safe harbor rule where companies get 3 years of grace time before they have to achieve that rule. So they might apply some kind of safe harbor, and I'm betting they probably will, because it's kind of a new thing and they need to give company times to abide by that rule. Of course, you can also always get around that by having 10 executives all have 10% each, so no one person or entity has over 20%. So that's kind of how that's going to work out. That rule has not gone into effect yet, and I think companies are going to kind of balance that out. I also think that's going to have some serious consequences and some serious effects on coins. Like for instance, a company will not be able to keep so many coins in their own treasury. That means some of them will have to disperse those coins very, very quickly. And you know what that means? That's right, folks, airdrops. So if Congress passes this rule right before this stuff gets validated, I bet you will see a ton of airdrops going around for various projects, because they do not want to be securities in the United States. Very, very important. So get your wallets ready, because you might actually be in for some serious airdrops because of the rule change. But overall, it is a great change for us. It definitely pares down the power that the SEC has over crypto. Gary Gensler really doesn't like it, and he's actually opposed to it because it obviously loses his agency power, and he doesn't want to be remembered as the commissioner that gave up a lot of the power to the CFTC. Because remember, the CFTC and the SEC have been arguing over this for a very, very long time. And it looks like the CFTC is going to come out ahead. And like I said, I do think they'll make a safe harbor date. And within the next year or two, I think a lot of these coins are going to have airdrops to actually mitigate that 20%, or they'll split it up among the executive team or other investors. Because remember, it's only 20% per entity. So if 5 different VCs all have 15%, and then the team has the other 10% or whatever, and then the rest of it gets distributed to a bunch of other people, then it's not a security. So this will actually lay out some really hard, clear rules, and that will prevent the SEC from doing regulation by enforcement, because they'll have to abide by those rules. That's why Gary Gensler is so opposed to a lot of these regulations. But he's not going to be able to actually do much, because political pressure is against him, and the Democrats are joining the Republicans in being more pro-crypto. both in the House and the Senate. If you saw that last Fit 21 bill vote, like 70 or 80 Democrats crossed over the aisle and voted for Republicans. If Biden had actually vetoed that, they would have actually had the votes to override that veto. That's how bipartisan it is, and that does not happen very often in today's like political environment. Very few things are bipartisan. If you look at like, whether it's like abortion, gay marriage, immigration, foreign affairs, very few things are bipartisan. Crypto is bipartisan at this point, and it's extremely bipartisan that like pretty much almost half the Democrats voted for the Republicans. So it's coming. They can't actually stop it, and they just kind of have to get out of the way right now. And the regulations that are coming definitely favor crypto. And even if that 20% rule seems kind of like, strict, there are definitely ways to get around it, especially if you have a safe harbor time period. It just means that companies can't just keep a giant chunk in their treasury to keep distributing, which is probably good for like most investors, because you don't want them to keep dumping on you. You don't want like, the founders of the company to have like 100% in like one or two people, or 99% in one or two people. So like something like Jasmine generally can't happen where they just dump the entire supply and the price goes from like $4 to like 2 cents. I mean, that's good for me because I bought it at like, half a penny, and now it's like 3 or 4 cents. But you want to prevent that initial dump from happening. So it's really to prevent like, VCs from massively dumping on people all at once, or a case like Ripple where they're continuously dumping over several years because they have so much of the supply in escrow. So essentially like it's going to force more fair distribution, and it might actually force a lot of airdrops in the future. And I know you guys love airdrops, so this might actually be a big boon for all of us, as companies cannot keep all that money in the treasury anymore. So yeah, take that as you will. Like and subscribe, hit that bell notifications button, and I will see you guys in the next video.